Hey, I'm here. I'm back. I'm alive. I'm whatever at this point. It is now the morning of February 15th. Valentine's Day is come and gone, or as some of us like to call it, Singles Awareness Day. So, how do you all celebrate it? You can tell me, or you can tell me, you celebrated it the way that I did, which was that by doing absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. We had a bunch of snowfall yesterday, or from the afternoon through the overnight hours, so it was not ideal for being out anyway. So it worked out for me. I spent my Valentine's Day or my Singles Awareness Day sitting at home playing fucking PlayStation games all night, falling asleep in my chair with the cat pinning me down, and drinking Mountain Dew. So that was my special day in a nutshell. Um, yeah, so it's God. I guess the big thing coming up here is it's about to be really fucking cold again. And we're looking at something like 4 days where we wind up in the teens and even 20s below zero in the overnight hours, barely hitting zero or even a little bit above for most of those days. Can't say I'm looking forward to that. Been having a lot of issues, with my car over the course of the winter, and between snow and cold, I'm just I feel like I'm putting too much strain on the poor thing. I mean, yes, so it's a 20-year-old car, so the fact that it's still running as well as it is after all these years is kind of a miracle in itself. But I don't got the financial backing necessary to replace it right now, and I'm guessing based on all the absolute insanity going on in Washington right now, with the tariffs and the constant barrage of threats. I don't think that there's ever going to be a good time to buy a new car now, or even a used car at this point, because prices are just going to keep going up and 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 up, because Donald Trump is a fucking moron who doesn't know a goddamn thing about economics. He's going to single-handedly annihilate our economy and our nation. That's my prediction. I mean, he's been doing his damnedest to destroy, annihilate, obliterate, absolutely, just go nuclear on the very existence of marginalized communities and peoples. And that's just salvo one. That's just testing the waters. That's just making sure that he can do it before he expands onto other things. Yeah. But anyway, that's kind of secondary to what's happening in my own life right now. But hey, you, come on up. Yeah. Yeah. So Trish is out of her onesie. I decided to take it off of her yesterday morning because looking at her, checking the scabs and everything, I think she's healed up well enough that the fur is growing back enough that I don't have to worry about her reopening the scabs, and I think she's okay now. Not to say that I'm still a little bit weirded out when I feel all these dried scabs all over the fur where things have dried up but haven't worked their way out yet. And with as thick and coarse as the fur is, I have a really hard time, like even wiping everything off with, let's say, a wet washcloth or something. I just can't do it because it's so packed into the fur that you can work on it, but it never really breaks apart. So it's going to be an ongoing thing with us where I work on it a little bit at a time. But she looks okay. The scabs are definitely not on the skin anymore. I've just got to figure out a way to get them out of the fur proper, because the fur itself is still too short for me to really get in there and work it out. But we're getting there little by little. But it's only been a day since I started doing that. But, yeah. So yeah, I really don't have much to talk about right now. I just want to get in front of the camera a little bit just to say that I did something this week with regards to my vlogging and be on my merry way. I've been revisiting my material. This entire playlist I've got this saved to. I've been I've been rewatching some of my old material versus new material, and I've been so distraught, so disappointed by the lack of progress that I feel like I'm making as far as my voice goes in my more recent videos. But I did go ahead and I went back to my older stuff, and I realized that it's not like not like night and day difference, but I have noticed that there have been shifts in my octave, in my tone. Um, I know I did have a much, I should say, much deeper voice back then, 2 years ago when I first started this, but it was noticeably lower back in those days when I first began. If you look at video one for at update one, the first few updates, and you compare that voice versus what I'm giving you right now, you will notice a difference. And I mean, I notice the difference, and usually I'm completely tone deaf. I can't really pick out the differences between if it's a subtle difference or a small difference between A and B. I'm not gonna pick it up because I'm not wired that way, So it was a positive thing to see that change. So yay me. Let's see. Oh yeah, newsflash. I'm tired. So I don't know. I mean, I have a pretty mediocre week overall. I mean, this whole thing with Trump in Washington, the continuous parade of bullshit coming out of there. It's absolutely got me freaked out, and I do worry about my future, my lack thereof of future, as it most likely will be. I know that the executive orders are not absolute; they can be challenged. Unfortunately, with the conservative majorities on the high courts, I don't have much faith that in the end that's all going to be upheld. That's going to be it's going to be overruled because all the shit that he's pulling off. It's cruelty for the sake of cruelty. But I know that the Supreme Court is just going to look at it and go, he's not doing anything unconstitutional. It's fine. He can discriminate all he wants. He can make life, a living hell for any marginalized people. So I feel like I am living on borrowed time right now. And in fact, I'm living my life right now as though I am. I'll just put it out. I'll just put this out here right now that I've set a date. I've set a hard deadline, and if that day comes and I don't feel that there's any that there's any way out of this, or that I continue to see the rights that I've had eroded further and further on account of who and what I am, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You know, I will take the steps that I have outlined in my mind, and I will implement them to depart from this existence. So it's not to say that I really want to, but you'll just reach a point where you understand that checking out of your own volition is preferable to being subject to the torment and the living hell that is life under an oppressive regime who has had nothing but hatred and loathing, baseless hatred and loathing for your kind simply because you exist. I mean, we've seen this throughout history. Most famously, we experienced this. I'm talking about trans people. I'm talking about gay people, bi people. Anyone who falls under the LGBTQ plus umbrella actually experienced that shit back in 1930s Germany. Fun fact, that I'm sure you may have heard by now, but Germany actually was the site of the what do we call it? It was it has a name that I cannot pronounce, but there was an institute that focused on things of like gender identities, human sexuality, things of that nature, and actually was the site of the first ever recorded human transition surgery, and that was in the late 1920s that happened. Well, I think it was 1933 when the Nazis decided to take that whole place, burn all the research, burn all the records that they had. Everything was burned to ash. So we lost it. And back then we didn't have digital backups. We didn't have everything that we do nowadays to aid in preservation. I mean, it would basically be like if you were to take the say the Mayo Clinic, they're world famous. If you take the Mayo Clinic and just nuke them into the ground, fry their servers and everything, and just get rid of everything that they had ever done, that would leave a huge gap, a void in medical research, in records and everything, because they've been at the forefront for a number of years. It's the same concept back then. I mean, yeah, there were other places that had research, but it wasn't nearly to the same level as this place in Germany. And unfortunately, tragically, really, all that information, all that research was lost, because a bunch of bigots, Nazis, stormed in, took all the records, threw on the street, burned it. And I don't remember if they destroyed the building too, or just the records. I want to say that the building was left intact, though I don't quote me on that because I'd have to look it up. But yeah, so you had all that going on, and then a couple of years later, they start rounding up the undesirables, which did include the LGBTQ plus people who were up until that point just trying to live their lives. And they were rounded up alongside the Jews, and shipped off to the concentration camps, executed, just like they were. And the fun thing is that the focus of the Holocaust is always on how the Jewish people were almost annihilated. Well, they weren't the only ones. I mean, there were plenty of other demographics that were rounded up and stuck in there too. Their numbers were smaller, so they don't get the same recognition in the history books, if they're even mentioned at all, because we got focused on just the biggest group only. God. Sorry, I'm on kind of a rant here. But the fact of the matter is, I've seen the future, I've seen the past, I've seen history repeating itself at this point, and I have no desire to be a part of that. So when the day comes, when the deadline comes, I'm not going to say when it is exactly, but only that it will occur during the year 2025. So, and funny thing is, I've been thinking about this a lot over the last couple months, and every time I think about it, I used to look on death and dying, and the kind of future that awaited me, and I would look at the end of my life as this thing to fear, as this thing to be worried about, because it's not so much that I've ever really feared being dead. What I have feared, however, is the process of dying. Those final moments when the life is leaving your body, and you're still aware enough of everything going on, but your mind's still totally active, but your body is refusing to do the things that it's programmed to, and like breathing or the like, or you're in so much pain that it overrides everything else, but you can't do anything about it because you're bleeding out, or you've taken your pills, and the poison is doing what it needs to. But I'm looking at nowadays, and I mean, 90% of the time, I'm looking at that, and it fills me with a sense of calm, with almost with a sense of joy. To think about being able to leave this world, leave it behind, and just be done with all this bullshit from the human race. I mean, it's not to say that's my first rodeo either. If anyone is Christian or any of the other mainstream religions, they'll probably see me speaking blasphemy here, but this isn't my first go around in life. It was a few years ago I actually started to remember just a handful of experiences from a previous life. I mean, I don't know how it happened exactly, or why I have these specific memories, but I seem to have existed about 150 some odd years ago. Maybe a little longer by now, but as far as I could tell, it was Eastern Europe, sometime in the latter half of the 19th century, maybe earlier. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. I was a runaway, trying to scrape out survival in a forested region. Um, but ultimately, I wound up making my way back into a town where I would, at a still a relatively young age, but I was I want to say I was around the same age that I am now, maybe a little younger at this point. But I I remember I was either succumbing to the cold or I was sick, but at any rate, I just I died on a snowy, cold winter's night. And the funny thing is, I'm finding myself, especially this winter, when I'm outside and it reaches a certain level of cold. You can kind of smell cold at a certain point, and it just reminds me that of that day that I died, and it was sad. It really was sad that I died alone. It was a snowy night, and I was just in some back alley behind some homes, and no one was there. That's not to say that it was a horrible life. I just, as far as I could tell, I had some ideals that did not align with the family, and I I took off. I ran away and did my best to adapt. Failed at it after a few years, and basically just came back to whatever town that was as for lack of a better term, a street beggar. You know, but that was the life I lived back then. And it's after having those memories come back, I'm just wondering, okay, what else, you know, has my soul experienced that I can't remember that that might have happened in a life before then. It's fun to think about, fun to wonder about. And I would like to get in touch with. I'm not sure if it's a medium or who exactly you can get in touch with to find out about past lives. Yeah, I know that a lot of the religious types will tell you that you're not supposed to dabble in that kind of thing, but I can't deny that I'm still tempted to check it out just because I'm curious. I'm really curious about the kind of life that I may have lived, prior to the 19th century. Was in that life that I was talking about. I ran away as not really sure the exact age, but I was a young woman at the time, probably in my late teens, early 20s, as far as I could tell, when all that began. When I made the choice to abandon my home and live on my own. I can only imagine what the actual circumstances were. Can't say as I have any recollection of that detail. I would just be curious. What's what was my gender in the previous life before that, or the one before that. I mean, a lot of people, that talk about these kind of things. I always go, you're an old soul. You've been around for a long time, and I'm inclined to believe it because it just it makes sense to me. But I know a lot of people, if you're still listening after all this, you're probably thinking that I'm just spouting a bunch of mumbo jumbo, hibbity jibbity, blah 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 nonsense. Because you only get one life, blah 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 blah. Well, I've never really held to that train of thought because the human consciousness is too complex, I think, to just you know, to exist as a one and done kind of thing. Because there's so much beyond what we can perceive with our own eyes and with the limitations of our current technology. But you get people talking about how they'll see ghosts and spirits, and they have things that happen, like you leave home one day, and you come back that evening, and you find that your kitchen's been rearranged, or you got a bunch of shit thrown all over the place, and no one else lives there. But why is all your fine china smashed on the floor in the next room? Things like that. So it's those kind of things that tell me that there has to be more to this universe, this existence, than just what we can see. Anyway, I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed now. I've been droning on and on and on and on about about past lives and multiple lives. And speaking of, here's 9 lives coming back. You're really gonna smell the bottom of my feet, huh? Yes, those were my toes. Yeah. All right, I am going to cut this off now, go to bed, and dread going to work tonight. So, you folks all have yourselves a great day and weekend, what's left of it. And if you are caught in this Arctic freeze blast bullshit, motherfucking sack of fuck, 20 below, we're talking about on Monday. I'm just not looking forward to that at all. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.